So just to warn you, I'm going to bang on a bit about stuff and then I'm going to show you the model. So if you don't want to listen to me waffle on, just skip to the bit where we do the demonstration and you'll be fine. If you do want to listen to me talk, that's awesome, please do. Okay, so in a previous video, we made this. We basically glued a bit of clockwork onto a PC fan and ran it so it generated a little bit of electricity, and it was a fun thing to do. But it got me thinking, and really I think it should serve that function. It's not just a stupid little thing that we made as a bit of fun. It should serve the function of getting you thinking. Because people think inside a box. Everybody does this. Me too. Everybody thinks inside the confines of their experience. And it's very, very difficult to think outside that box. Now, I find a lot of people, when they say, how can you improve a battery, don't actually mean that. What they actually mean is, how can you improve lithium-ion batteries so I can make $1 million? That's what they mean. And it's hilarious. If you think of a battery as just a lithium-ion battery, which a lot of people do, then of course your view is extraordinarily narrow. And with such a narrow view, your ability to come up with something new and be inventive is equally extraordinarily narrow. I think it's important to widen your view. It's important to attempt to, even if you don't, but attempt to, look outside the box in which you're thinking. So if we think about what a battery actually is, then it's an energy store. It's an energy store that creates electricity, if you like. And of course, that's exactly what this is. The spring is an energy store. The little generator we glued to it creates the electricity. That is a mechanical battery. In the same way that dragging some rocks up a hill and letting them roll down would be if you attach them to a generator, and we've done something similar. In the same way that pumping water to a height and letting it fall is a battery. Now that particular one, of course, is used the world over. It's called pumped hydro. It's extremely popular because it's extremely cheap. So it's a very good way of doing it, and that was come out by somebody who thought outside the box. Instead of thinking about a battery as a specific thing, they thought about something different. Now, springs are mechanical energy stores, and of course there are lots of mechanical energy stores. Rubber bands, elastic bands, they're also mechanical energy stores. Now, when I thought about that, of course, it set me thinking about rubber band aeroplanes. And because rubber band aeroplanes are something that we all know, it's something I played with as a kid, and I'm quite sure lots of other people did. Really simple thing, rubber band propeller, wind it, let it go, and it flies. Now, they're toys in that format. They're toys. And they'll fly for a minute or so before crashing to Earth. But I didn't know this till I looked at that. There's a huge culture about these things. Now, I don't know the exact figure, but the world record for flight time of a rubber band aeroplane is something mad. It's 2.5 hours or something like that. I mean, yes, the thing was well engineered. Yes, it was very efficient in the use of the power that was put in there. But 2.5 hours, that's phenomenal. And you may think that they're only going to be toys, but no. There's a guy in LA who's using something massive like 900 pounds of rubber or something. It's not 900, it's a huge number. But his plan is to create a plane that he can fly around in. So these things can actually have real use if you think about them that way and you try to work out the problems of what would be real use. Now, because there's another issue involved in science and involved in development and moving forward, and that's exciting the kids about it. I'm an old boy. I'm on my way out. If I don't have somebody to replace me, that's it done. So it's partly my responsibility to excite people about the magic of science and what can be done when you think outside the box and investigate things. I'm very keen on that kind of stuff, at looking at things in a slightly different way to see what you can come up with is creative all by itself and enormously exciting and gets kids involved. If you tell kids that it's almost impossible, it's really difficult, there's only one way of doing things, they're not going to get involved. And you can see that. You see that when the bulk of students don't take up science degrees. Science and math degrees are falling out of favour. There's a desperate shortage. And there would be, because everybody's being told that science is difficult. But it's not. Science at its basics is a creative activity that's very simple to get involved in. And that's one really cool thing about mechanical batteries. There's something that you can see how they work. You can actually get your hands on them and build them and see them do something almost magical, like light up a light or something like that. And that makes them exciting. It makes them something worth doing. It's worth doing on the basis of being demonstrable to everybody else how exciting and magical the whole thing is, and yet has potential for development into something really quite real. Now, of course, when you study in depth, of course it gets complicated. But at the beginning, when you're taking those first few steps, it's tremendously easy. And it should be shown as being easy. It shouldn't be shown as being tremendously difficult. If you do that, people are not going to walk that road. You know that when you're talking about something scientific, then you're actually just creating a model that is basically a lie to aid understanding and nowhere near the truth. And that's the way it is. When we think about the model of the atom, everybody should know really the model of the atom is the sun and planet model. And yet we all know as well that that's an inaccurate model, but it's one that we adopt because it works. It's easy to explain, it's easy to get hold of, and you can make predictions from it. The actual model, or a more complicated model, is extremely difficult to understand, but is only useful in some more rare occasions. So simplify, simplify, simplify is always going to be the message. Attempt to look outside the box for something, rather than go down a path well travelled. Try not to overcomplicate when you're explaining or attempting to do something. Usually, actually, if you add complication, all you really do is add failure points. Anyway, enough of me banging on. What have I actually done? Well, I've taken that rubber band idea and I've made this. All it is the same thing that you would see on a rubber band plane. It's elastic bands, it's two hooks. On this hook there's a handle to wind it up, and on this hook there's a motor to generate some electricity. Now, of course, I've put a bridge rectifier on it. This is just an ordinary DC motor, but because it's rotating it'll create AC. So I've put a rectifier to recreate DC, and then obviously I've got a little LED that we can light up when this thing spins. So what I'm going to do is wind it up and let it go and light that light. So I'll give you a close-up of that. Okay, I thought that was both stupid and awesome at the same time. I mean, this is obviously overbuilt, and I overbuilt it because I want to put some different rubber bands in there. I mean, the first question you've got to ask yourself is, would adding more rubber create a more powerful output? How much rubber can we add, and how much energy can we store for the weight of rubber that we add? What about gearing? Because we just let that go, and of course the bulk of the energy was at that first instance when it starts to unwind. Then it was relatively level, if you noticed, and then dropped off. Could we do something about that? What about the gearing ratio? Can we do something about that? What's the efficiency of the wind I put in against the energy I got out? There's a whole host of questions about that, and a whole host of improvements that could be made on that. Like I say, bear in mind a guy is trying to fly an aeroplane on this. So the potential for the energy here is astonishing. Now, we use just a winding motion. Actually, there's also energy stored in the stretching. If we pulled it and stretched it and then let it go, what would we get back from it? Now remember, that's basically what your muscles are. Your muscles are just like rubber bands that can stretch and pull back together. So there's an awful lot of energy for the different mechanisms. So there's different mechanisms we could use, different materials we could use, different gearing ratios we could use, different things we could do with this. There's a lot of friction between those rubber bands. If we oil it or put some graphite in there, it will make it very much more efficient because the rubber bands are not rubbing on each other. So there's a ton of stuff you could do with that, and that is an actual battery. Now, I would be interested to see if we could make that a pocket-sized version, how long it would last, and would it light a torch. I don't know, but I get a suspicion that would actually be possible, and that's going to be a lot of fun to do. Anyway, I enjoyed doing that. One of the reasons, actually, that I did this was a chap wrote to me, and he said, Rob, what would be really good in a post-apocalyptic world? He was writing a novel, and he wanted to know some of the science that may be possible given very scarce resources and no lithium-ion battery factories. What would be good? And he was thinking in terms of chemistry. Me, I'd think in terms of this kind of mechanical stuff. What could be done by your average person mechanically to generate sufficient power to, say, maybe run a radio? Now, we know clockwork will run a radio. There was actually a clockwork radio, which I thought was brilliant. Could we make a rubber band radio and in a post-apocalyptic vision of the world keep in communication with each other based on winding up rubber bands? Well, probably actually, which would be a fun thing. So he wrote to me and asked to that, and I thought, well, mechanical versions actually will be good. The model itself, incidentally, is made out of this stuff. This is something I talk a lot about because it's astonishingly useful stuff. It's sold for roofline. They use it for fascia and soffit, and here I call it builder's board. You can buy it in Home Depot and builders' yards. There are specialist shops that sell nothing but this. It comes in a whole range of sizes up to, I think, 10 inches or something. It's massive, the number of sizes. It comes as flat boards, it comes as angled boards, there's a whole range of boards. It's quite cheap. And it's very easy to work with, and it's very quick to make models like this, where you can just basically saw it out or cut it out with a carpet knife and glue it together with a bit of crazy glue. It works really well. This is just glued together with super glue, and the super glue bond actually is stronger than the original plastic. So it's very quick to make models out of and very easy to use, and so I use it quite a lot. Anyway, I thought I'd share all those thoughts with you, including how to generate electricity from a rubber band. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.